The traffic glimmered under the orange Lagos sun, a river of red brake lights and impatient horns. On the side of the road, a woman sat barefoot on torn cloth, her skin dry with dust, her eyes hollow from years of silence. She did not speak. She only stretched a trembling hand toward passing cars, as if reaching for a life that once held meaning. A black Range Rover screeched to a halt just beside her. The tinted window rolled down. A manicured hand tossed out an empty water bottle. Then the door opened. Out stepped Obinna Ojukwu, billionaire real estate mogul. His shoes, custom Italian leather. His watch, gold-plated. His heart, hardened by success, by pain, by a past he buried under towers of money. He didn't see a woman. He saw a stain. "Get away from my car," he barked. The woman flinched. She tried to speak. He didn't let her. Instead, he shoved her to the dirt. And that was when it happened. A glint. A tiny flicker of light. A necklace slipped from the beggar's threadbare blouse. It caught the last breath of sunlight. Obinna froze. No one else would have noticed. But he knew that necklace. He had seen it before, in the trembling fingers of a dying woman years ago. His mother. A small mud house stood on the edge of an overgrown cassava field. The rain poured down like judgment as a young Obinna knelt beside a wooden bed, clutching his mother's hand. "Promise me you'll find her," she had whispered. "Who, Mama?" "The girl, with my necklace." Then her fingers went limp. He had never asked what she meant. He left the village the next day and never returned. Obinna stared at the beggar, the necklace glowing faintly in the dust. Impossible. He looked around. Horns blared. Cars honked angrily. Lagos had no time for memories. But his world had just cracked. Still, pride took over. He pushed her again and drove off, pretending nothing happened. Yet, as the car swallowed him into the chaos of Lekki Expressway, the image lingered. Her eyes, the necklace, the past reaching back with burning hands. The city sparkled beneath him. But sleep would not come. He opened a drawer. Inside, old photographs. A woman smiling in a faded wrapper, holding a baby, him. And around her neck, that same necklace. The exact design. The same cracked gemstone in the middle. He picked up the photo with trembling hands. His heart began to pound. Could it be? He picked up the phone. "Emeka," he said to his driver. "Tomorrow morning. We're going back to that spot." But by dawn, the beggar was gone. Nowhere to be found. As if the earth had swallowed her. In a hidden alley, the beggar sat in the shadows of rusted zinc roofs. She touched the necklace gently. Behind her, a blackened photo torn in half sat in an old tin box. A woman holding a baby. The other half of the photo was missing. Lagos was still asleep, but Obinna was not. The world outside his glass windows shimmered with gold and greed, but inside he sat cross-legged on the cold marble floor, his eyes locked on a faded photograph. The woman in the picture, his mother, smiled with such sorrow, it haunted the edges of his memory like a ghost. Around her neck, the necklace gleamed, small and delicate. The same one he saw yesterday. The one on that beggar's chest. He whispered to the photo. "Mama, who was she?" The sun crept into the room, chasing shadows across his face. But no light could enter the rooms he had locked within. He hadn't cried in 15 years. But something warm and bitter traced down his cheek. Obinna didn't eat, didn't dress with care. He threw on a plain polo shirt, jeans, and a cap. For once, he wanted to disappear into the crowd. "Driver," he said, "take me to the spot from yesterday." They retraced the exact route, Ikoyi to Victoria Island. The sidewalk was already crowded. Kiki drivers argued over fares. Sellers pushed trays of puff-puff. Children with ragged uniforms rushed by with wet socks and torn books. But she was gone. He stepped out of the car. "Did anyone see a beggar here yesterday?" Small woman. Wore a necklace. Most people ignored him. A hawker selling boiled corn pointed vaguely. "Them day move that woman sometimes. She no get permanent place. One blind woman day follow her talk for night sometimes." Obinna's heart skipped. "Where does she go at night?" The hawker shrugged. "Me I no know. But ask those area boys near the junction." Obinna did. He asked every vendor, every child, every shoe shiner. Some remembered her. Others didn't. Hours passed. Then a man selling second-hand shoes said, "Try Makoko side. Some of these beggars day go there. She fit day stay near the river houses." Obinna nodded. He handed the man 10,000 Nigerian nairas. For the first time he was chasing something he couldn't buy. Makoko floated like a forgotten world. Wooden shacks balancing on water, children paddling with bowls. women washing clothes beside fish nets. The smell was of old wood, seaweed, and survival. He hated this place. He once paid a governor to move these people out of view of one of his hotel projects. Now he was walking into the same place barefoot. He asked again. Descriptions. Gestures. His heart quickened each time a child pointed. Until finally, under a broken roof made of torn zinc and mosquito netting, she sat. Her eyes were closed. Her feet bruised. But the necklace still hung from her neck like a secret she refused to bury. Obinna stepped forward. She opened her eyes and said his name. Obinna. He froze. His chest tightened. How do you know me? He asked. But she looked away as if the air itself had grown too heavy to answer. He returned with food, water, a mat, a lantern. She had not moved. When he gave her the water, she drank, slowly, carefully, as if she hadn't touched clean water in weeks. Then she spoke, her voice dry like the harmattan wind. You look like her. Who? He asked. She didn't reply. So he asked again, firmer, who are you? She turned to him and said softly, you don't remember the fire? Obinna blinked. A wave of heat crawled up his spine. His throat tightened. No, he said. But his body remembered something. A scream. A dark room. A burning chair. A door slamming. And his mother's voice crying out someone's name, not his. Someone else's. The air was thick with smoke and rain. Obinna was barely a teenager. The house had caught fire, not from lightning but from something left burning too long. He remembered running. His mother screaming. But she wasn't calling his name. She was calling. Amaka. Amaka. He never asked who Amaka was. The memory faded with time. And now, years later, sitting across from this beggar with trembling hands and sunken cheeks, the name returned like thunder. He whispered, Are you Amaka? Her body trembled, but she nodded. Then Obinna stood up and walked out. He didn't look back. Back in his Lekki skyscraper, he buried himself in records. He called his lawyer. His late mother's documents. Hospital records. Any trace of this Amaka. The lawyer sent him a scanned letter, handwritten in fading ink, dated 16 years ago. It was addressed to my daughter, Amaka. If you ever find Obinna, protect him. Even if he forgets you. Obinna dropped the file. He felt like a man walking through a dream stitched from pain. Obinna opened an old wooden trunk hidden under his bed. Inside were books from boarding school, wrappers from sweets, and a journal he forgot he kept. The last page had a drawing, a little girl standing beside him. He didn't remember drawing it. Below it, in clumsy handwriting, me and Amaka. We will run away together when Mama gets better. He dropped the journal. He remembered now. There had been a girl. His mother used to call her your sister. But she disappeared the day after the fire. He had thought she died. Or maybe he wanted to believe that. But now she was alive. And he had kicked her into the dirt. The night was quiet. Lanterns glowed across the waters like small stars. He returned with more food. And blankets. And medicine. Amaka didn't ask why he was back. She only said, I've waited so long, Obinna. He sat beside her, the river air cold against his skin. I don't remember you, he confessed. She smiled weakly. You will. The truth always floats like oil on water. He asked her where she had been all these years. Her eyes clouded. There was a man. After the fire. Mama tried to hide me. But he found me first. Obinna's stomach turned. What man? Her lips trembled. He took me away. Said I wasn't a real Ojekwu. Said I was from the streets and belonged there. She looked down. I was only 10. Obinna clenched his fists. Who was he? She looked him in the eyes. Your uncle. Obinna stood up in shock. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed across the slum. Gunshots. 2 of them. People scattered. Obinna turned just in time to see Amaka fall backward. Blood. A single bullet hole in her shoulder. Someone had tried to silence her. Obinna screamed her name. The river swallowed the echoes. The air tasted like metal. The stench of gunpowder lingered between wooden huts and trembling shadows. Somewhere a baby cried. Dogs barked. But time for Obinna had stopped moving. He cradled Amaka in his arms. Blood soaked through the torn fabric of her blouse. Her breathing was shallow, her body limp. Yet the necklace still rested over her chest, untouched by the bullet. A tiny, glowing symbol of something unfinished. People gathered, whispering. Obinna did not speak. He simply lifted her and carried her toward the boat jetty. Every step felt like carrying the weight of an entire lifetime. This was the girl his mother once made him promise to protect. And now she was dying in his arms, because of a truth someone didn't want spoken. The fluorescent lights hummed above sterile white walls. Machines beeped slowly. Nurses moved like shadows. Obinna paced the waiting room like a trapped animal. His white shirt was stained red. His hands trembled. Doctors worked on Amaka inside. Every second cracked louder than thunder. Then the surgeon emerged. She was alive but barely. The bullet had missed her heart, lodged near the shoulder bone. She would live, if she woke. Obinna nodded in silence. But in his mind, storm clouds gathered. Someone had tried to kill her. Not rob her. Not scare her. Silence was the target. In Obinna's childhood, Chief Yud was always in the background. Loud, powerful, sharp suits, sharp tongue. After Obinna's father died, it was Chief Yud who helped the family relocate to the city. It was Yud who arranged their rent, their security, their silence. It was also Yud who vanished from Obinna's life the moment he turned 18 and moved to Lagos. He hadn't heard from him in 12 years. But now, the memory of Yud's voice echoed in Obinna's mind like a warning bell. Some roots are better left buried, boy. At dawn, Obinna ordered his tech team to dig up everything on Chief Yud. Old files, business documents, land records, family assets. What they found was worse than he expected. There was a land transfer, 16 years ago, moving an ancestral home in Nsukka to Yud's name. It had once belonged to Obinna's mother, but the signature was forged. There were bank withdrawals from an account that had been closed shortly after her death. Millions vanished. Even worse, Amaka's name appeared once in an orphanage file in Enugu, but only for 6 months. Then she disappeared. No adoption record. No death record. Just gone. Like someone had erased her. The nurse called his name. Obinna ran to her room. Amaka was awake. Well, weak, but alive. He knelt beside her, shaking. She touched the necklace, her lips barely moving. I told Mama I would stay close to you. Obinna asked her the question that burned through him like acid. What did you do to you? She closed her eyes and whispered the story. After the fire, Amaka had hidden under the old water drum behind the house. When the smoke cleared, she emerged, alone. That night you came. He told her their mother had died, that Obinna had gone to the city. He told her she was not family, that she had been adopted from a woman in the streets, that she was shame, a secret. He took her away, not to protect her but to remove her. He left her in an orphanage with instructions never to speak of the Ojukwu name. When she cried, they beat her. When she spoke of her mother, they called her a liar. At age 11, she ran away. She survived in scraps, thus, begging, praying, waiting. But she never let go of the necklace. It was all she had to prove she once belonged to love. Obinna left the hospital that evening with one mission. He would find Yud. He would make him answer. He drove straight to the estate in Ikoyi, the mansion Yud lived in, complete with guards and peacocks and a marble fountain shaped like an eagle. Obinna walked in. The guards hesitated, but no one stopped the billionaire when his eyes burned like fire. Inside the sitting room, Yud stood up with a smile. Obinna, it's been years. What brings? But before he could finish, Obinna grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. What did you do to my sister? You did not flinch. He only smiled. So, she finally opened her mouth? That was all Obinna needed to hear. Over the next hour, truth unraveled like poison thread. Yud had always hated Obinna's mother. She was not of proper bloodline, he said. She had once been a market girl. Yud believed she tarnished the Ojukwu name. But the final blow? Obinna's father had written a will, giving everything to his wife and both children. When Yud found it, he burned it. He claimed the boy as his heir and erased the girl from the family line. Family is about reputation, Yud spat. Not blood. He chuckled. And that necklace? It was cheap. What kind of legacy is that? Obinna's hand shook, but he did not strike. He only said, You're right. The necklace is cheap, but it survived more than you ever will. Then he left, and Yud didn't stop him. Because men like Yud believe the truth cannot hurt them, until it does. In the days that followed, Obinna began transferring assets. Quietly. He opened a foundation in Amaka's name, for orphan girls abandoned in the streets of Lagos. He bought back the family home in Nsukka and began rebuilding it brick by brick, not as a mansion but as a center for healing. He hired private investigators to open a formal case against Chief Yud, fraud, forgery, theft. The wheels of justice moved slowly, but they moved. For the first time in his life, Obinna didn't feel powerful because of what he owned. He felt powerful because he was finally making something whole. Amaka sat in a wheelchair, her wounds still bandaged. Obinna wheeled her out to watch the Lagos sun disappear beneath the horizon. They didn't speak for a while. Then he placed something in her hand. A second necklace. Just like the one she wore, but polished, restored. It belonged to Mama, he said softly. There were two. She closed her fingers over it. The first tear slid down her cheek. It wasn't from pain. It was from being seen. From being remembered. A crowd gathered around the nearly finished structure. A modest center with two carved wooden doors, etched with the Ojukwu name and a new one beneath it. Amaka's light. Children danced in the field. Villagers whispered, Obinna has returned. Some remembered the boy who ran after the fire. Few knew what had brought him back. But in the shade of a mango tree, Obinna and Amaka stood side by side. Not rich, not poor. Just two souls born from the same fire, finally finding the light. But just as they began to smile, a black SUV pulled up beside the field. Two men stepped out. Dark suits. No smiles. They carried a document. Obinna read it. His face turned pale. A court order. Filed by Chief Yude. Claiming defamation. Claiming ownership of the foundation land. Claiming Amaka as an imposter. The air hung heavy. The mango tree no longer swayed. The wind had gone still. Obinna held the paper in his hands, but it felt like a knife in his chest. His fingers trembled not from fear, but from fury. The document was cold, legal, lifeless. Chief Yude Ojukwu versus Amaka Ojukwu and the Amaka Foundation. Grounds: land dispute, identity fraud, defamation of family reputation. The villagers stood quietly behind the gates of the new center. Amaka sat beneath the mango tree, eyes tired but unafraid. Obinna knelt before her. I will not let them erase you again. She looked away not in fear but in sorrow. They already did. A long time ago. But he took her hand. No, not this time. This time you'll be written into history. The courtroom buzzed with journalists and lawyers. Photographers waited outside. The scandal of a billionaire's long-lost sister, risen from the gutters, was too juicy to ignore. Obinna entered wearing a plain native kaftan. Not designer. Just white like truth. Amaka sat beside him in a simple iro and blouse. A scarf over her head. The necklace over her heart. Across the aisle, Chief Yude sat with his lawyers, 3 of them. His agbada shimmered. His face was calm, smug. He believed legacy was power. That bloodlines were weapons. That poor girls had no place in courtrooms. But he did not understand the fire that lives in the forgotten. The judge listened as Obinna's lawyer spoke. Photos were presented. The necklace. The journal. The forged will. The land documents Yude had claimed from Obinna's mother. The police report from the orphanage. The medical records showing Amaka's scars. Some from neglect, some from deliberate injury. Then the final blow. A DNA result. Obinna and Amaka, same mother. Same father. The court fell silent. Even the clock on the wall seemed to pause. Yude's lawyer fumbled. His hands shook. Obinna stood and spoke, not as a CEO, not as a prince of Lagos wealth, but as a boy who once lost everything. I found my sister not in a mansion but in the dirt beside my car. I shamed her. I forgot her. But she forgave me. And now I choose to remember her. I don't want her name hidden. I want it carved into stone. The judge closed the file. The gavel fell like a thunderclap. Case dismissed. Land restored. Amaka recognized legally as an Ojukwu. The crowd outside erupted. Journalists screamed for comment. Cameramen shoved mics into faces. But Obinna and Amaka simply walked out through the side door. No words. Just silence. A silence made of justice. Obinna stood before a wall of cameras, his voice calm and firm. This is not a scandal. This is a resurrection. And it won't be the last. He announced the expansion of the Amaka Foundation to 3 cities, Enugu, Ibadan, and Port Harcourt. He donated 1 billion Nigerian nairas of his personal funds to fund education and shelters for abandoned girls. He closed with a statement no one forgot. Legacy is not built by blood. It is built by love. 2 months later, Chief Yude was arrested for fraud, perjury, and embezzlement. His estates were seized. His business licenses revoked. The Ojukwu name, once feared in boardrooms, now trailed shame behind Yude's shadow. But Obinna did not celebrate. He simply removed Yude's name from all family buildings. He replaced it with one word: Amaka. Children danced under the mango trees. Villagers sang songs that had not been heard since Obinna's mother died. Elders poured libations. Drums echoed through the clay hills. Amaka stood beside Obinna on the stage. She had gained weight. Her cheeks were fuller. Her eyes brighter. Her wounds, though not all healed, had stopped bleeding. Obinna placed a carved wooden box in her hands. Inside it, two things. Their mother's original necklace restored and polished. The other half of the torn photo, their mother holding both of them as babies, arms around each child. Amaka pressed the photo to her chest. The crowd cheered. Once, a man kicked a beggar into the dust. He thought she was nothing, just a shadow on his spotless car. But dust remembers what diamonds forget. And sometimes the person we shame is the one we owe the most. That day in traffic, Obinna had not kicked a stranger. He had kicked the fire that once kept his mother warm. He had kicked away a piece of himself. But fate, like water, always returns what we try to drown. A sleek black car pulls up on that same Victoria Island road. Obinna steps out. The city is hot but quiet. This time he opens the trunk, takes out bags of food, bottles of water, sandals. He walks to the row of beggars and gently places something into each hand. Then he turns. Behind him, Amaka steps out of the car. She's in a bright wrapper, confident. Oh. Together they hand out what they once lacked. A little boy stares at Amaka. He looks at the necklace around her neck. "Are you a queen?" he asks softly. She smiles. "No, my dear," she whispers. "I am just a woman who was once forgotten." She lifts the boy into her arms, and for the first time in years, she laughs. A laugh that sounded like her mother's. A laugh that could not be silenced.